The Republicans in the Assembly have got a new leader. What his priorities will be this legislative session. And after a decade of pushing from advocates, the medical aid in dying bill is now law. What amendments were made to that bill and what's next for the controversial option available here in New York State. Hello and welcome to Empire State Weekly. I'm John Gray. 2026 is a major election year between the midterm congressional races, statewide offices, and the state legislature. Plenty of buzz this week on the formal nominations, candidates dropping out, others choosing not to seek re-election. The biggest race, of course, in the state is the one choosing our next governor. On the Democratic side, Kathy Hochul dodging a primary challenge from her Lieutenant Governor, Antonio Delgado. The Schenectady native announcing on Tuesday he is suspending his campaign, stating that, quoting now, there simply is no viable path forward. Delgado's announcement came less than a week after naming a Buffalo Democrat, India Walton, as his Lieutenant Governor pick. Meanwhile, on the Republican ballot, Nassau County exec Bruce Blakeman becoming the official nominee for the party this week in Long Island. Blakeman took the stage promising no tax hikes, lower electricity bills, and protection of the Second Amendment rights. This week, President Trump also endorsed Blakeman, saying he will work very hard to get him elected. When it comes to President Trump, Blakeman called his support for the president unwavering. As major races take shape now, we're also seeing more leadership changes in the state legislature. This week, the Senate Deputy Majority Leader, Mike Gianaris, announcing he will not seek re-election. Gianaris says that the last 8 years as the senator have been, quote, more rewarding than I could have ever imagined. Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins says they will be talking leadership changes after the elections. Different story on the Republican side of the state assembly now, moving forward with a changing of the guard at the top there. They've already chosen a new minority leader in the historic downstate shift. State Assemblyman Ed Rah has been chosen by the conference to be the next Republican leader of the chamber. The Long Island lawmakers replacing Will Barclay, who announced late last week that he would be stepping down as the Assembly minority leader and not run for re-election this year. In a press conference after the election, Rah says he is humbled by the party's decision.
I'm just excited to move forward with the Assembly Republican Conference. I am humbled to have the support of all of my colleagues to lead this conference going forward. And we're looking forward to getting to work, to continuing to advocate for a better New York for all of its families throughout the rest of this legislative session.
Joining us now is the new minority leader, Ed Rah, talking about priorities as he takes the helm in the state assembly. First of all, congratulations. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
I read it was a majority vote. Everybody voted for you. It's got to feel pretty good coming in the door in this new position.
Yeah, it was good. We have a great conference from across the state, and to have their support is certainly humbling. And I was happy with how it all came together and excited to get to work.
So what are the big priorities right now for the, well, I guess all state lawmakers, but specifically GOP on your side of the aisle?
Well, the thing that is really, really popping right now is energy. Given the cold, we're seeing big spikes in rates. We want to push for policies that prioritize affordability and reliability. We know that a lot of the mandates that have come forth from the administration have driven rates up, and there is a lot of talk now of kind of all of the above energy, starting to really look at nuclear again and those types of things. So that's something we're going to be very vocal about in the short term, and it really is part of a larger affordability conversation. And I always say the affordability that the Democrats are talking about is different than what we're talking about, because we don't believe that the key to affordability is spending more money by the state. That would be a different path than our colleagues on the Democratic side, who want to continue to drive our budget up $5, $10, $15 billion every year.
Yeah, I've looked at some of the comment sections. I've seen some prominent Democrats really pushing, we need to fix energy, we need to get these costs down. People were saying, wait a second, you guys were the party who were against nuclear and a lot of these things that would have helped us right now. There is a touch of irony in that, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at, especially downstate, Indian Point that former Governor Cuomo pushed to have closed. We really haven't fully replaced that energy for downstate. now the governor is talking about doing new nuclear plants. But the thing is, we had pivoted away from that for a long time, and obviously this is a option that takes a very long time to get up and running. So it leaves us behind the eight ball a little bit.
Your mayor of New York City was up in Albany, shaking his tin cup with a lot of other people, and it seems like he was only in the job about 10 minutes, and all of a sudden he's saying, hey, we got billions and billions of dollars in deficit, and Albany's got to help us out of this. Where do you guys stand on that? Of course you want to help the city, but also there's got to be a balance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, the mayor from the beginnings of his campaign has been pushing for the state to adopt tax increases. I don't think that is a good path forward. We're already one of the least affordable states in the country. If we were to do the proposals that he wants in terms of corporate tax rates, we would take what's already the worst business climate and make it even worse. So I don't support that. Obviously, on the other hand, if we can find ways to help the city out of this situation, I think we do have to have those conversations. New York City is really, the economic driver of this state. So it's just got to be done in a way that is fiscally responsible. We can't just be writing them blank checks so that they can do some of these, free buses, just free, these government-run grocery stores, those types of things that have been part of the Mamdani agenda.
I've noticed covering this town for 40 years that when you're in an election year and everybody's kind of paying attention, budgets tend to get done on time. Governors want things to move quickly. Do you feel like because we're in election year that you're going to see things go a little bit quicker and people won't dig in so hard and drag this thing on into May and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that we can have it come together a lot earlier than it has the last 2 years. We did go into May the last 2 years. There was a lot less contentious policy issues in this executive budget proposal. So the conversation will really be about the spending, which is what budgets are supposed to be about. So I'm optimistic that, maybe by, the first or second week in April, we can have that wrapped up and move forward to whatever needs to get done before the end of session in June.
It looks like Bruce Blakeman's going to be alone running for this on your side of the aisle for the governor's chair. It's a tough lift, isn't it, just in terms of where the enrollment is across the state, Dems versus Republicans. Do you give him a fair shot at this thing, and what does he have to do? I'm sure you're going to support him, but what does he have to do to really get a message out that can resonate, especially in New York City?
Well, Bruce has a record to run on for sure. He's been, a good fiscal steward of Nassau County, canceled a prior planned tax increase from his predecessor, has had a number of bond upgrades, has pushed public safety, hired law enforcement officers. Nassau's been named the safest county in America. So that's the record he's going to go put before the voters. This past November, despite having, I believe it's in excess of 110,000 registered Democrats than Republicans in Nassau County, under his leadership and the leadership of, Nassau County Republican Committee, won by 12 points. So I think that there is an opportunity to replicate that on a statewide basis. What does he have to do right now? He's got to get out there upstate and get known better. I know that my colleagues in the Senate and the Assembly are eager to have him in their communities and help make sure he can spread the word and get known and spread the message about his vision for New York State and his record in Nassau County.
Ed Robb, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for coming on the show this week. And by the way, we're going to have much more on the conversation with the Assembly Minority Leader next week on Empire State Weekly, but we'll wrap it up there for right now. After years of fighting the bill legalizing medical-assisted suicide, it's now law. We talk with the sponsor of the legislation on what this means to have it through and what's next on this controversial procedure. If you got a comment or story idea, please tell us about it. Email us at news@news10.com. We're also on X at WTEN. Welcome back to Empire State Weekly. After a multi-year push by advocates, the Medical Aid in Dying Act was signed by the governor into law. The law would allow mentally competent, terminally ill adults with 6 months or less to live to request life-ending medication. The governor had initially held off on signing the legislation unless certain amendments were added to the bill. The amendment would put in parameters to ensure that patients are not coerced into choosing medical aid in dying, and that no healthcare professional or religiously affiliated health facility would be forced to offer the aid. I sat down with the lead sponsor of the bill, Assemblywoman Amy Paulin, on how it feels to finally pass this controversial legislation and what's next now with this new law. Assemblywoman, thank you for joining us today.
Sure.
First question, this was a long fight. I mean, I live in the Capital Region, so I cover the Capitol for decades, and this was not something that came up 2 years ago, and it was an easy lift for you guys. Talk about how long it took you to get here.
So we started working on the bill about 12 years ago, and we got it in pretty good shape, I'm going to say 10 years ago, which is when I formally introduced it. So that was May of 2016. And so the bill has been, yeah, and we had a Senate sponsor right away. It was originally Diane Savino. When she retired, then it was Brad Hoylman who took it to the finish line, or not quite, but almost, right? So we've been with a live, good bill. We've been active for 10 years.
Did the bill change over the years? Is that what you think got it through? Was it attitudes changing in terms of other states doing this and New York?
It was more, I mean, the bill changed a little bit. It wasn't really significant. As we heard from members who said, well, I could support it if, or I could be less opposed to it if, we made some changes. And we saw that other states passed it. When I first introduced it, there were, when I first started thinking about doing it, it was 2 states. It was only Oregon and Vermont. In 2015, California, which was a big state, passed it. And so we started looking at, what did California do? And then a whole lot of states started passing it after. I mean, we're now the 14th. So in between, every time a state passed it, we'd look and we'd say, is there anything we want to copy for our own bill? And then sometimes there were things, but it wasn't significant changes. Sometimes it was better words. Sometimes it was a slightly new concept that we incorporated that we thought we said well, but they did better. And it was that kind of thing. So they weren't significant changes. It was much more attitudinal.
2 of the big pushbacks I've seen over the years, one is people who do palliative care, hospice. I've heard from some say, well, you don't have to die in agony in a bed. We can give you medication where you can pass on, and it's not this terrible death that might have been 100 years ago. Maybe we don't need this because we have this kind of care. What was the pushback from you on that end of things? Why not just opt for medication versus this?
So that was one of the communities that we worked strongly with, which was the Hospice Association in New York. And they asked for certain provisions in the bill because there's always an understanding that when you have medical aid in dying in a state, hospice demand goes up. So they wanted to be sure that they were ready for that demand. And that was part of the conversation. We didn't have active, we might have had people who said that, but not hospice, not the actual providers. The providers work with us.
And the other pushback I would hear is, it's a slippery slope. We're going to open this door. And then people who are chronically depressed and want to end their lives, there's going to be some provision down the road, or they're going to rewrite this law. Once they get their foot in the door, it's going to become that. Or people who are severely disabled might be like, my life just is terrible and I don't want to do this anymore. What's your answer to that? That this is the comprehensive bill and people shouldn't be trying to create boogeymen that don't exist?
I would just say, firstly, Oregon, which is almost exactly the same kind of bill we have, has been operational for 30 years, and there's been no attempt to widen that. nor do I think there'll be any attempt in New York. If there is, I wish them good luck because it took me 12 years, to get
Yeah.
this far. I think the likelihood of expanding this bill would be extraordinarily difficult, and each is a new law to pass. So I think those who say that are really just finding an excuse not to support it.
And last question, it seems like there were carve-outs and amendments in this thing that if you're a doctor who just, I don't want to do this, I don't want to make this prescription. If you're a hospice worker who said, I'm not going to help you do this, they can sort of raise their hand and say, you're going to have to find somebody else, right? There's no penalty for them if they say this is not for
No,
me.
and there's no obligation and no penalty.
Gotcha. And this goes into effect when? It was 6 months after the signing?
Has 6 months from February 6th. So whatever
Gotcha.
that is.
All right. Assemblyman Amy Paulin, thank you for coming on today. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. It was Tin Cup Day at the Capitol, where mayors from around the state are making their case for more money. On the other side of the break, we'll talk to Pix 11's Henry Rossoff and how New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani did on his first trip up to Albany. If you got a comment or story idea, please let us know. You can email us at news@news10.com. We're also on X at WTEN. Joined by Pix 11's Henry Rossoff, taking a look at kind of the wish list that Mayor Mamdani brought up the thruway to Albany. Henry, thanks for coming on.
Of course.
So Tin Cup Day, and I think the mayor may have shook his cup harder than everybody.
Yeah, and maybe brought a bigger one than everybody. He effectively wants a rework to the state funding formula, which, to bottom line it, for those of you in the Albany area, really anywhere else in the state, he wants a bigger piece of the pie. He says New York only gets about 45% of the budget, whereas it sends a bigger percentage of the budget. He wants help fixing a $7 billion deficit. And in fact, during his Albany testimony, we found out that that deficit had gone down from $12 billion he estimated just 2 weeks ago to $7 billion due to better than expected Wall Street revenues and some savings and efficiencies that he's been able to find so far. But still, New York City running a $7 billion hole. He wants Albany to fix it. And oh, by the way, wants state lawmakers to pay for universal child care, which the governor said she would do. Wants fast and free buses, which the governor says she would not do. Wants a millionaire's tax, which there's been some skepticism about. So a giant, greatly shooken cup. I don't know how else to say it.
Well, when you've got these huge deficits and you come and say, the formulas are just, they're sticking it to New York City and it's not fair and you got to fix it. I mean, A, does he think he's really going to have them change the formula? And B, does this give him some political cover if he doesn't get the money and he says, look, I made a case and they wouldn't give it to me, so now we have to raise taxes or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, raising taxes, especially on working class people, I feel like is off the table for this mayor. He would like to see a wealth tax, but Albany controls that. What I will say, it has already, in a very real example, given him some cover to make a change. Is not particularly happy with a lot of people who supported him. He's sort of reversing his plan to expand a very popular housing voucher program, which has really ballooned in recent years and is responsible for a big portion of our deficit. And then as far as how does he fill this hole, there is a bucket of aid, billions of dollars that other parts of the state get. New York City is carved out and not part of that. And you heard, if you watched the whole hearings through or just read about them afterward, it did seem like there was wiggle room there. People were suggesting that maybe New York City should be included in that pot of money. So wouldn't rework the formula, just to allow New York City to partake in something the rest of the state already does. Before
I let you go, not that the mayor or anybody in the city cares what the rest of the country thinks. I've seen all these things going viral on TikTok and our social media of the snow removal issues in the city and garbage piling up. Is that getting resolved down there, or is that still an issue that's sort of a thorn in his side?
The garbage piling up stuff was for, frankly, a couple of days after the big snowstorm almost 2 weeks ago. And what you have to remember is two things. One, the whole sanitation department was clearing up snow. And so not to apologize for them, but they were physically doing other things. Garbage got delayed 2 or 3 days, which is pretty typical in a big storm like this. We haven't seen it for a couple of years. But then the big piles you see, that's commercial waste. The city's not actually responsible for that. Private carters are. Now, could the city have done a better job enforcing criticizing it and maybe said, hey guys, you got to fix this and fix this now.
Yeah.
Fair criticism there. But the big piles you see on TikTok, Instagram, and whatnot, actually not necessarily the city's direct responsibility.
Well, imagine TikTok getting something wrong. And the last question is he likely to be back up here again, shaking another tin cup, or was this kind of a one and done and we'll see?
I would say I'd expect Mayor Mamdani to be making many asks from Albany. I don't know how often he plans to be there. For example, there's a big Tax the Rich rally on February 25th. I know that New York City lawmakers a lot are going up for. I don't know that he'll be there for that, but he's obviously in support of movements like that.
All right, Henry Rossoff, Pix 11, who never leaves too much trash in front of his house. We appreciate you coming on today. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, you got a comment or story idea, please tell us about it. You can email us at news@news10.com. We are also on X at WTEN. Finally, on Empire State Weekly, New York Democrats introducing two bills aimed at banning what's known as surveillance pricing. This pricing is used by companies to charge different prices to different customers based on their data. New York law already makes companies disclose when they're setting prices based on data collected about an individual customer, but these bills would mostly make it illegal. Both would let the New York Attorney General sue a company that breaks the law and let regular New Yorkers sue when they are victims of price discrimination. For now, from all of us here at Empire State Weekly, I'm John Gray in Albany. We'll see you right here next week. And don't forget, you can watch Empire State Weekly all over New York State. Here's a full schedule of the show on 10 TV stations across the great state of New York.